Voice Matters. In the studio today, we have Candice Ivory.
Hey,
Hello, Candice. How are
how
you?
you doing? I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great as well. So, where are you today?
I'm in St. Louis, getting ready to travel back south tomorrow to get prepared for the Just Blues Awards. So,
Yeah.
kind of got a nice little southern trek going on.
Tell us about that.
Well, Just Blues is an awards show and also a foundation that just focuses on giving recognition to artists and musicians on different scenes in blues that may not get recognized in a kind of mainstream or well known blues market. They'll focus on that, but they'll focus on also, I mean, you could be mainstream, but they goal is really to just kind of give honor where it's due. And also, these awards are kind of named in tribute to the trailblazers of blues. And so I will actually be receiving the Millie Jackson Classy and Sassy Award
Well,
along with Jimmy Duck Holmes, who will receive the John Lee Hooker Award. So, and Jimmy Duck Holmes is on my new project, New Southern Vintage, which is slated to come out soon. Oh, I
well,
mean, it's coming really soon. So it's just really an honor to be here among so many amazing musicians and be recognized by the Black community as well, because this is, an African American award show. So just to be recognized and by someone I absolutely look up to, like Millie Jackson, and a true pioneer in blues and soul, means a lot.
and along with Minnie, of course.
Absolutely, my favorite.
Yeah. Right, let's go back. What's the backstory to Candice wanting to be a musician and singer and everything?
Wow, this is a lot for
There you go.
question. I mean, ooh, this is big. I mean, my family's very musical, so there's always been music in my family or as it relates to me as early as I can remember. So I've always had a deep connection with music and I've always been performing for as long as I can remember. So I don't know. I knew I would be some type of musician, and I always was some type of musician. Like, even performing, I started out playing classical music. I played cello and I played trumpet. I was always, as a very young child, I mean, my first steps were to the piano. And most piano players know me because I took my very first steps to a piano player. He never lets me forget it. The great Michael Moore of Memphis was in my father's gospel group um, called Genesis. And so I just remember always being around music. My grandmothers are all singers and church choir conductors. But I would say about age 14 is when I turned kind of professional and I started booking gigs and I started working professionally as a musician.
Right, and what kind of music was around at the time that you were growing up? I mean, what did you listen to yourself?
There was literally everything growing up, everything from gospel to pop music, R&B. My parents were big vinyl heads for a lot of, everything from Earth, Wind, and Fire to the Monkeys. You could hear, you could hear in my house. It's like one day you could be listening to Carole King, and the next day it's a Houdini record on. It's like it's no rhyme or reason to what the music is, just whatever phases they were going through. And both my parents are music, they are musical and they're musicians too. They write songs, they play instruments, so it's kind of like whatever phase they're in the listening. So a lot of gospel growing up, especially the gospel from Memphis, because like I said, my father had a gospel group, Big Don Valentine, who handles the Wild Bills Blues Jam session now, was actually the drummer in my dad's group. It's funny because I ran into him and you brought it up and I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. And they were recording at Ardent and everything. So they had a kind of connection with lots of different types of music. Like I said, Earth, Wind, and Fire, big inspiration. A lot of bands, Stax bands, Ebony Webb. My cousin was in the band Ebony Webb, so a lot of deep funk.
And what was it like growing up in Memphis?
Well, here's the thing. My parents are both from Memphis. I moved to Memphis in 8th grade, but I spent all my childhood there in and out prior to this point because that's where all my family's from. But I would say for me, I had the very unique experience of growing up a lot of places south, whereas I have this heavy Memphis influence, and definitely it's there by the time you move in and you're back in a place in, junior high or something like this. But it also gave me a chance to kind of look objectively. Physically, I was always surrounded by lots of things. We lived in lots of places, moved quite a bit. So in DC, there was go-go, there was go-go, there was gospel, there was soul and R&B music for me. By the time I started performing professionally, it was very heavily kind of R&B, funk, rock, soul, jazz, kind of a lot of different mixtures and blends. But it's formative for me because when I lived in Virginia with my family, that is where I met D'Angelo. He became my choir director, and his influence in building the way I think about sound and choirs, that definitely shaped when my family moved back home to Memphis. And then we began to do a lot of different types of music, and especially with the church choirs as well.
And I take it you learned your trade as a singer in the choir.
Yes, I was a singer, but I played drums at church, I played piano. We're all multi-instrumentalists, so it's like who needs to fill the role is kind of who fills the role. Not saying that at certain churches we didn't have hired people for this, but I just think that, growing up, and especially with blues and gospel with the Fieldstones, people just play instruments. It's not like, do you play this instrument or not? It's like, you will play this instrument at this time. We need somebody to play this instrument. Whether you play it or not, you're going to play it today.
When were you first on stage? Can you remember that and how you felt?
Like I said, I've been on stage my whole life. There have been a couple of times when it wasn't actually great. My folks love to bring up the time in 5th grade where, there was a talent show, and, I personally don't feel that I was the problem at this talent show. I felt like everybody else was off. But my mom was like, you remember the 5th grade class was laughing at you? I didn't have a great mic technique at this time. So very loud, causing the drums to shake. People just the kids are going crazy. The adults are going crazy because it's kind of funny, But I was obviously upset about this. And at this point, my mom was like, well, you're probably never going to perform again at this point. But like I said, I felt like I was the one in the right. I was like, these people just don't understand visionary thinking, okay? But just things like this. I've been on stage because I come up in, the Black church. So you always on stage. You got to go perform. Got Easter speeches to do. So you got to introduce somebody. And I'm a preacher's kid, so there was just always going to be a stage involved in my world.
And being on stage, do you get nervous at all?
I used to a lot. I actually don't get nervous anymore. Now I get excited. And I'm always appreciative to perform for someone because no one has to come to your show at all. No one has to come see you, Otis, at all. So I'm really appreciative of the ability to do it and the ability to be so well received. So now the nerves just come out, I think, probably way prior to the show. And it's like, okay, is this something I'm ready to take on? Am I ready to have my set? Am I ready to travel? Am I ready to do what I need to do? That's when I'm mostly getting the nerves now. Because when it's showtime, let's go.
And what about touring? Do you enjoy the touring life?
I actually do enjoy the last few tours I've been on have been so special and monumental. It's not for everybody, and I definitely, there are road warriors out there and they're touring way more than me. Most people feel like I have an extensive tour life. I feel like my life is not that extensive in tour, but there's true road warriors out there. People like Daddy Mac Orr's band, they used to be out there talking about 180 plus dates a year. I'm not quite at this place, nor am I necessarily trying to be at this place. But the tours I go on, just like the types of gigs I choose to do, are very special and unique. And usually I'm touring with kind of a family environment where we taking our meals together, we living together. It's just more involved as far as a family performing together, and we just we feel that inclusivity with each other. So that's the part that makes touring fun for me, because it's kind of like you could do some dates, you could show up, but to have people that you enjoy touring and like enjoying your life with as you're performing, that's really important.
Yeah. And do you prefer festivals or intimate gigs?
Well, I like them all. Like, I don't have a preference of place I like to play. I like to go where the people are receptive, where the people want to hear you play and they're
Yeah.
excited to see you. Just want to have a good time. I think that there's definitely all types of audiences. There's listening audiences, there's participatory audiences. And so I think as performers, we have to get in the mindset of like, well, what does the audience need? What do I need? How can we connect? Not necessarily just, okay, here's my show. You guys need to take this show and leave this show. Like, that's not fair to anybody. It's like, hey, I'm here. We're having a collective experience. So I think you can get different variations on that, either intimately or at a festival.
Can you read an audience?
Absolutely. And when they are with it, and when they, luckily, I haven't had the point where they haven't been with it, but I've definitely had the point where it's like, okay, you guys, are you concerned about me? Are you timid? Are you shy? Do you need a little pride? You want to get involved here? And I mean, but those are the audiences that, you win them over, but really you kind of don't on some level. The way that those audiences come about and the way that they get involved is that they see you having fun, and you're having fun whether they're there or not. Join me or not. That is where you kind of have to be on that. We're going to enjoy ourselves.
And have you any particular favourite places to play? I mean, do you have a residence or anything like that?
I get to play some pretty cool places, honestly. And that is the way I choose gigs. Like, somebody was asking me about this and they were like, oh, you play a lot of small festivals and you play a lot of like different things. I pick the places I think are cool and I want to check it out. Like, I just played the Mark Twain Boyhood Home and Museum in Hannibal, Missouri. Had some friends come meet me out. Ben Levin came from Cincinnati, Ohio. Mississippi Marshall and B came out from Mississippi. So it was really cool to connect with those guys. But, the gig was exciting because, we're learning about, Mark Twain, and, we're in Tom Sawyer's place. It just had a kind of a cool vibe to it. The town of Hannibal's really amazing, great folks, and we got to kind of see how their ambassadorship works for that, and how through this writer and through this person who's really sparked a lot of imagination in the literary field of America. It's just cool to see how that has transferred to the town and how they've taken that on. Gigs like that, gigs like the Blue Front Café. It's, Jimmy Duck Holmes just had his birthday. Happy birthday, Jimmy. Shout out to him. But, his parents founded this place. He's a year older than this place. So this place has a unique history. And it's been fun to learn about those folks and how they deal with the ambassadorship of the Blue Front and how that relates to Bentoney and the rest of the world. So it's just kind of really, those are how I select my gigs and things I'm interested in doing.
Have you played Clarksdale much?
I have, and I love going to Clarksdale, even more so than I love playing it. I just love going to see my friends there and hanging out, probably. I haven't been playing it much this year, though. I did do, this year, I was very honored and privileged to be part of the Pinetop Perkins Workshop. And I was a teacher there for vocals at Pinetop here. And that was just phenomenal because it's just another way to connect with people from all over the world, all over the United States and internationally, about this music that we really love. And they're coming to learn it right there, right at Pinetop's place. They've got all these amazing master mentors and people like Bob Stroger. They didn't have Bob Margolis was out this year, but normally he would be there. Just people like this that they can learn directly from. And it was just really an honor to be part of that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about you being an educator. How did you get into that?
It's also a part of my life. My father's a professor too. It's just always been, I grew up on campuses. So I've had to somewhat a duality in my life of being able to do church and school and all of these different music, all these different things simultaneously. Athletics, all these things are just kind of part of my life growing up. Not that I think any musician probably sets out and says, "Hey, I'm going to teach music." Probably
Yeah.
don't. But one thing that I've learned along the way of teaching is just that it really expands you as an artist because, you have to be able to articulate what you're thinking. You have to be able to convey these messages to other people and have them come away with a sense of understanding and comprehension. And that's a real challenge to do, and especially for the voice, which is located inside your body. It's not a button you push. It's not like, these keys or strings set out before you. They're all internal. So the challenges of that, and I find that it's made me a better musician and a better artist teaching. And it's expanded my ideas as much as I probably didn't do it at first.
And what about being at school yourself? Were you a bright student?
I was a bright student, but I will say I probably didn't work as hard as I could because things came somewhat easily. And then the other part was I was playing music professionally on the side, which was completely thrilling. It's kind of like, Dave Chappelle talks about having this kind of Clark Kent Superman feel. And I could really relate to this because, you're playing, you got your gig, Wednesday night you got a show, but then you Thursday morning you're in school at 8 o'clock. You've just been had an amazing room full of people, and then you come back and it's all you need to get to class on time. What are you doing in the hallway, Ivory? It goes back and forth like this. So I would just say for me, it was an interesting kind of a double-edged feeling of I like it. I'm also ready to explore more. I'm limited in my position in life being a youth, but then at the same time, it's also valuable because it gave me, if you're young learning, people give you a lot of grace, which you need at that time. So I had this.
And what's your advice to children in teaching music?
I would just say, music is so complicated in the sense that we complicate it as adults. We start out teaching everybody how to sing. They're learning alphabets, learning nursery rhymes because we're teaching them how to talk. And then at some point in time, you become articulate and you speak, and then nobody wants to hear what you have to say anymore. And they certainly don't want to have to hear what you're singing anymore. And then they're judging you about your singing. It's kind of like people telling you, "Oh, it's a little bit pitchier, stop singing." And so then you have people walking around, they're muzzling their mouths and they're just doing this. What I would say to anybody is no matter what instrument you play, it all got to sing, it all has to dance. These are things that we are born to do and we're taught to do. We shouldn't forget these things. And singing is about the great joy of life. It's about making joyful noises. So we really shouldn't take away from the voice and that importance. Put that into the instruments too. So this would be my advice for people starting out. Just enjoy the fact that you have a precociousness and a time where you can learn, and people are not going to stress you out about that. Take this time. Don't try to get out here and do things before you need to do it. Take that incubation period to really figure out what you want to do. The rest will be there for you. I just think it's just a matter of people. A lot of people don't actually know what they really want to achieve musically, So be clear about what your musical goals are.
And what's the best advice you've had as a musician, singer?
Oh, it's not that I've gotten great advice a lot of times. Sometimes the best advice is the stuff you saw people do that you shouldn't. And in this case, a lot of that credit goes to my great granddad. He showed me a lot of things that direction I could head in and be like, I could do that, but maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe, bringing this raccoon in the house wasn't, we should have found out if he was alive or dead first. So that's the type of, that can also be as useful as getting great advice. But I will say most of my mentors were very, very adamant about just self-discovery and not being afraid to just listen to everything, try new things, just get out there and try. Every gig is an opportunity to learn and grow. very heavily imprinted on me. Every single.
Could you describe what Avant Soul is for you?
I think that's a big part of it too for me. You know, a lot of people ask me to categorize my music starting out, and they couldn't put it. Sounds like this, sounds like that, or something familiar or something not familiar. And it's funny because one of my mentors is the great Reggie Workman, bass player who used to play with Coltrane. And I spent a lot of time with him. And Reggie was concerned about me using the term avant at all in my music or even to describe myself. He was like, well, if you're avant, this means you're ahead of the curve and people won't catch up to you. They won't be able to be there. I said, well, tell me what else is new, Reggie. This sounds like I hit the nail on the head right now. But, I thought about that, but I also thought about it as being leading edge as opposed to being, martyred and misunderstood. And for me, it's about the pursuit of who you are in your soul. All music, no matter what you're playing, if it's going to be good, it's going to have an element of soul in it. No matter if we're talking metal, we could be listening to Frescobaldi. It's soulful. So it's like your soul's going to be part of whatever genre you deal with. But I guess the avant term for me is not just about being out as far as creative musician goes. It's also, or like an avant-garde artist. It's also about just the discovery of yourself versus your soul. How can we take the ego out of our music? How can we really pursue, how can we really get to that leading edge of like thought and consciousness in our music and bringing the soul there? So that's kind of the way I'd like to break it down.
Right. Where does the blues element come into your music?
Well, for me, it's not separate. It's just been a part of my family sound my whole life. And initially, that was what I was thinking I would do when I decided to make a blues album, is that I would focus on my family sound and the way we arrived at some of these things because it's very distinct to us. But what I discovered is that can still translate in every form of music that I do because that's me. And that's now part of what I do. And blues and gospel and soul and R&B music, all these things are just part of what I do, whether I have been innately aware of it. But then at the same time, you get where it's something it's part of you, so you take it for granted. So I literally needed to go back and think about what made, especially my family, sound distinct, what blues is distinct to me, my region, where we come from, and they're all different. And that's been the most intriguing process about, I guess, part of all this process of me making different albums in blues genre is just realizing how vastly and uniquely different they are across each kind of subgenre.
That takes us nice and neatly to the new album then.
Yeah.
Why the
Right.
title? Why the title?
Well, it's a concept I've been thinking about for years, New Southern Vintage. Just like, to me, people are like, well, if you really describe what you are, well, I'm a lot of things. I have a lot of different monikers. I got a whole song about it. Listen to it. It's called Swing on 'em. And I just list all these different titles because people are so interested in being able to put you in an easy category so they can think about you. And it's like, well, maybe I don't fit there. I think that's the whole point of blues anyway. It's like we're not quite the fit that everyone else is. And it's for the people who are kind of, different, a little bit quirky, a little grotesque, a little, what people would think of as abnormal or something like this. But this is an element, outsider, I guess. So for me, the blues has always been there, but it's just been about like pinpointing that. So for New Southern Vintage, again, just like with Memphis Minnie, so many tunes to choose from. For her catalog, we had about 200. For this, had probably about 40 tunes in the can. And it just kind of evolved and just grew in a different way. And I ended up cutting way back and just dealing with the select few that I thought would be, cool for this album. And it just shaped up really interesting. It's kind of like a surprise because I've never made an album quite in this way. It's really unique for me to make one. And then I've got a cast of characters from, kind of like past and modern, and they're all kind of connected. So it's a very visual album. It's a very art concept album, and it's got like kind of new and old. And of course, there's two Memphis Minnie tunes on there because that's my girl. I had to just give her a little
Yep.
nod. But then there's like a Clyde Maxwell tune on there. And then there's Robert Petway. We're doing Catfish Blue. So, it's no real rhyme or reason except I like those.
Right. It's very eclectic.
Okay.
As an album, it's a very eclectic style. You couldn't just pinpoint, well, that's blues, that's jazz, that's soul. It's just like a melting pot. And yeah,
Absolutely.
talk about some of the songs. I mean, uh, the first one, "Ain't So Blind." Pardon me, "Ain't So Blind." Where did that come from?
That tune ain't so blind. Well, what I like about it, like I said, all the tunes have like such heavy conceptual and visual components to them, so that you know, not even if you're, not seeing a video, it can kind of play like this in your head ideally. So we just wanted to create that. So Ain't So Blind is mixed in a unique way. It's kind of a stripped down but very aggressive tune. Robert Allen Parker and I wrote this one together, and it's just kind of out the front, very aggressive. But then you got me with my voice, and there's like maybe it's got an effectual reverb that gives it kind of like a multi-voice idea. And so this idea is that this person is split in half. There's this person is frustrated with the ideas that they're being presented with, which is a cheating lover. So definitely decided to play with some panning and some reverb, and in a way that most blues albums kind of don't. It's more stripped down. It's not as much effects. But part of this approach for me was also just showing that some of us are modern, even if we enjoy the past. We still want to hear some new effects. We still want to be presented with some new challenges. And we want to be presented with some themes that are like current. $40 rock your world. This is, so you people can relate to the thing. This might have happened to somebody. You let them. You got a guy, he ain't working. You got a Cadillac, he might have borrowed it for the day. So, it's just kind of like just relevant things that people can relate to.
And Blue Blood, is that for your band, Blue Bloods? Or
Well,
where's that?
it's like they started calling themselves the Blue Bloods, and then we just started shouting it randomly. So it's unclear if we actually have a band called the Blue Bloods, or if we just kind of like it just turned into this. So it stuck. So we're like the Blue Bloods, and it's like our moniker, one for all, one type thing. But that was a tune that I'd actually written, and I've recorded it a couple times. In fact, Robert Allen Parker and I recorded some of this material as early as like 2017, 2015. We've been collaborating a little bit, and so we re-recorded some of these things multiple times. Blue Blood was about just kind of this, reclamation of the sounds and reclamation of the land and ideas about it. And it's just like, it's one of the things I say in my artwork, which the painting and the visual art has really been a big part of this album. It's just folk art is fine art too. It's like the beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And so it's just like a Blue Blood. Yes, can the South be dusty? Absolutely. Can you love that dust? Can you be fine with the clay? Yes, you can. So it's just about just a different perspective.
And the Memphis Minnie, the "I'm in Trouble." What made you choose that one?
Oh, I'm in trouble for the Fieldstones. So that's a nod to my uncle's band, the Fieldstones. Wilroy Sanders was his name. That's my great uncle. And I wouldn't even be singing blues if it was not for him and them, because that's the blues I truly come from. That's my region. That's my people. Pretty much everybody is dead with the exception of a few cousins and a few folks who still know that style of blues. It's not very many. So I wanted to give them a nod because David Evans is also on this album, and David's like family to me and is responsible for recording my uncle's band, responsible for kind of discovering them. And we also had the pleasure of being recorded, I think, in the actual studio where the Fieldstones recorded, I guess it's Memphis Blues Today. So it just like, I believe that's the one, the title I'm thinking about. But just a lot of historical nods. I'm in Trouble. That's just one they actually have a video the Fieldstones did with Joe Hicks leading this tune. But it's one of my favorite songs. It's one that Ben Levin on piano, who is accompanying me, he loves this song and he usually plays it when we're performing together. It's like an opening for me, just to respect my uncle and the Fieldstones. It had to go.
What was the production like? Was it from the floor? I mean, what was it?
Well, the way the album's built is that there's kind of like a couple stages of production. So there's like essentially two bands. So up front, you've got the new band. And then in the back, you've kind of got the new older band. You don't have any drums in the last section of the album. So that's another interesting feature, because one of the big features of my Memphis Minnie project was the drums, was the percussion. So we've gone from that to absolutely no percussion. And so big rooms where we're all together. We kept the style, but we also kept the ability to kind of bring people in so that we could have like kind of that element of internationality, because, you know, obviously Antonio Vergara's not here, but he was able to send in, you know, tracks for us. So there's things like that.
And Foolish Pleasure, where did that come from?
Foolish Pleasure is a kind of an interesting tune. It's kind of unique because it's one that sticks out from the rest of these tunes in a way, but it's almost like a kind of a folk country song with, like, you know, it's got some Tom Petty influence there. It's almost like it's got a lot of things happening there. It's got Ben Levin's whistling debut. It's got Yubu Kazunga on there, and it's kind of funny because, you know, Yubu is on this song, but he also did a little bit of videography for us while we were recording this. So hopefully some of this stuff will come out. He and I have another tune together that Robert Allen Parker put out as a video called Someone to Love. So it's kind of an inside band joke that Yubu's on this track and that we're singing Foolish Pleasure together, because we've already got this other song where it's like, you know, we're loving each other. Now we're kind of like we're nemesis almost.
I'm looking for my baby.
Yeah, it's you know, I guess it's our take on Killing Floor here. So you got to have something. But the cool part is the drummer, Don Johnson, is actually from New Orleans. So, you know, when you give him this type of shuffle beat and, you know, put Ben on something like that with him, those guys had so much fun. And that was the thing, is like, when you're picking out tunes and we're like going through tunes that we want to sing, we're picking out songs that are just fun for us to play, songs that we want to have fun to, songs we want to listen to cleaning the house. And Looking for My Baby is just one of those tunes where you just kind of like excited to just dance to it. You know?
Another one you brought out before was the Strong Black Matty.
Yeah. It's amazing to me how people love this song, because it's my take of my uncle's band's take, the Fieldstones, of Old Black Maddie or Poor Black Maddie. And I just think people really enjoy that groove. And I know the ladies just really enjoy the idea that, hey, we're gonna stick it to the man here, just do what we want to do. I've been amazed at how many people have been responsive. Of course, Chris Stevenson is playing organ on that, so that's just a very tasty track.
Let Your Love Shine On.
Love this tune. It gives me 70s vibes. No, it's just so chill. And I mean, you hear a lot of restraint in my voice here, like, and it's like I'm ready to break out, but no, you know, so it's just it's a tune that can be taken multiple ways. It's like, it can be taken as inspiring. It could be taken as a love song. It could be thought of as a spiritual song, you know? So it's kind of like, it's just, how do you want to process that lyric? And I love to play with lyrics in kind of this way where, you know, you get these double meanings and different ways you can look at a thing.
Have you played that one live yet? Is that going live?
I don't think we played that one live yet. No, that's one that hasn't made it out. We haven't debuted this one, but we'll have to do that.
Will you be able to hold yourself back if you play it live?
Probably not. I'll see all those lighters in the audience. And people are gonna go crazy. I'll be crowd surfing and stuff. It's gonna be insane.
And another one written by Robert, Look Away.
That's my guy, man. Robert's such a fantastic writer. And I mean, he's played with so many amazing people. We've been collaborating for years. There was a time when I just straight up wasn't playing at all, but Rob would still get me to come out and record for him. And so we've been working together for years. And he knows me and he's written a lot of tunes for me or with me in mind. And Look Away is just one of those tunes where it's just like, I have performed this one live quite a bit actually. And it's just such a solid ballad that is well written and written specifically for me.
And the process between you and Robert, what comes first? Is it a melody? Is it the lyrics, obviously, for you, is it?
It's funny because all of us are just like really friends. And it's like just legit friends outside of music too. Like we hang out together, like we're gonna go to the pub and drink some beers, go see some music, just to talk crap all night. And so it's kind of like these songs evolve from so many different ways. Like Robert is always in a writing mode. I think he's just kind of a machine and doesn't shut off. A lot of the time, the bass player, who is Kari Wynn, he is actually the guitar player for Public Enemy. But when it comes to playing with us, he refuses to play guitar at times. Like we have to, on my third album, he's playing guitar, but this is a very special thing. He's playing mostly bass, but if you can get him to like come out and like actually play guitar, it's a big deal because, he's a kind of a colleague of Eric Gale's and was mentored by him. And so it's like, just get the fact that he enjoys kind of just being able to space out, play bass, and have just a different musical identity playing with us. And that's just something that everybody on this album could do. So New Southern Vintage, all the guitar players are multi-instrumentalists. So it could be Adam, who's also the engineer. He could play guitar or bass. They swap up all the time. And so some of the tunes that didn't make it on here, you got people playing multiple things. But with Rob's in my process, I just think usually he is the person who's writing. And at times he's the main producer. So this is interesting for him because I'm the producer in this case for him and his vision. And so that's been kind of it's a new window in our relationship that we'll have to look out in. Colin, I'll let you know how it goes after the album drops. See if I made it through this window in our relationship.
Well, what was it like producing it then?
Well, I want to say it was a stress-free environment, but it was not. And then the other part is like, people like, well, did you get what you wanted? I'm like, sometimes you just have to take things. If you got a problem, take it up with the producer. Okay, that's me. Well, there's nothing we can do about it. I'm the producer now. I'm sorry, the production can't handle this problem. It's above me. So it was definitely interesting. I was excited because it's usually the only way that I've worked in the past. Having Charlie Hunter essentially be my first producer was wild. And it was great because it was like, him and Rob have been the people who produced me the most, I should say. Before a whole project, it was Charlie. This was interesting because, I have the kind of wide spanning tastes. So we'll see how people feel about it. I know that for my next blues project, I probably would like to be produced because I'd like to produce a different project right now. So it's kind of like you need to know when you need to be produced and when you don't need to be produced. For this one, I think it was really important for me to say what I needed to say in this project. But who knows how I feel?
And Catfish Blues, you've got.
Oh my goodness.
What made you put that one in?
It was Jimmy. It was all Jimmy. Me and I were definitely in the studio haggling over tunes. I was like, I want to do this tune. No, we're doing this tune. So it's kind of like, what are you going to say? No, I'm not going to do it. Well, Jimmy and I probably have a whole nother album of tunes. I chose to kind of wait to deal with them when I felt like I have time to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a process, and you kind of have to go with where the art is taking you. So I think that of the tunes that I did with Jimmy, Catfish Blues really spoke to where we were. The other part is it's a tune that's part of the canon. Everybody's recorded this tune. It's a really important tune. It's so Southern and so identifiable. You've got the catfish. This is a main staple in the South. Like, I think I definitely tried to be super thoughtful in the types of tunes I picked that really address the theme and the overall idea of New Southern vintage. Because Catfish is really, really important to it. The themes he's talking about in the story of Catfish Blues, and even the idea, that like David says in Big Road Blues, is that some of these ideas are not connected. They're just verses, or they're just kind of like haphazard. And that's life too. So.
And Karina, you chose Karina as well.
I love this tune. I love Clive Maxwell. I love so much of the stuff from his documentary work. And this is a tune that I just kind of want to record a lot of different ways. So for me, the tune is more like, I don't want to call it a challenge because it's not really that. It's more like it's an idea that I want to flesh out. This is one iteration of that idea. I can promise you I will record it again. And there may be even a second and third version of it because it's just kind of a theme I'm fascinated with right now.
And Crown Royal Bag Blues, where did that come from?
There's probably a recording somewhere at my university of me recording this way back, and maybe even close to, I won't even tell you how long it is. But I will say, at the time, Julian Jr. Mance was alive, and he was one of my instructors at New School. I was in the blues ensemble, and they would have me teaching it. So I would just like make up blues on the spot. And this was the tune that I made it up, but wanted to flesh this idea out because, we'll pick up a bag of Crown Royal Yellow Pea or something. We grab something and just finding something fun and cheeky to sing about, but also that particular riff and that particular idea and the way we're playing that particular riff and idea and the way I'm singing the melody is just important. And we wanting to kind of convey a school of thought there too.
In World of Trouble.
It's one of my favorite Memphis Minnie tunes. So I usually get asked to sing that tune a lot. So again, that'll be a tune where you probably just hear me record it a lot or perform it a lot through the course of time.
And Shout the Boogie, another one.
That's a fun tune. I think we got to really give it up for, Memphis Minnie, who really did spend a lot of time with piano players. Skip James has a whole piano album. And so that's the Bentonia School of Thought on piano that we're trying to really reintroduce. And we're introducing the idea that, there's a lot of guitars in blues and that it is guitar happening there, but there's also piano, there's also vocals, it's a very diverse world, and it's far more nuanced than people have been allowing it to be. So I think I just represent at this time the possibility that blues women and keepers of this tradition could look a lot of different ways, can sound a lot of different ways, and that we don't always we can identify the styles, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a tradition we participate in.
Who are your influences in female vocals?
Just, in any style or?
Anything at all.
I listen to a lot of singers. I'm a musician's musician. I'm a vocalist. So I really like to, I love to cut to the chase. I love to mimic a lot, but, it's crazy. People like, in my family, I've heard, Candice is one of the, maybe the best vocalists in the family. I'm thinking to myself, a lot of people had to pass on out off this planet for me to be that, because some of the strongest voices I heard, powerful, unique, come from, my family, church, like my cousin Gladys, a voice like no other on the planet. Really haven't heard it matched. My grandmother, Dorothy Mae Ivory, amazing, one of the most phenomenal conductors I've ever seen, but also had an amazing singing voice. voice. So, just the people that we don't know in some of these rural and country churches have some powerful voices that shaped me. Shouters, big blues and gospel shouters, kind of just out in the fields. You aren't going to know them. But of course, next to that, obviously, I'm listening to a lot of vocal technicians. And most of my favorite vocalists play piano. People like Sarah Vaughan or Aretha Franklin. They're all very proficient and know their way around the piano or some key. And that's because they, tune. The intonation's always going to be. But I listen to everything, everybody. I'm probably listening to more instrumentalists than anything.
What are your hopes and fears for this album?
Now that it's out, the fear is gone. That fear is subsided because literally at this point, it's just kind of like, the album's out. Was it going to come out? That's the fear for everybody. They're thinking, how can I get through this? How can I make anything happen? So that's the biggest fear for me is as far as putting out the project, where I got to in the last few albums that I put out, and especially when I put out Love Music, probably about in 2015, I just decided that at this point, I don't care what anybody thinks about my music. I know that I've given it everything it could have, whatever time, talent, treasures, the money that I have, the production and the time and the ability. I know I've given it every single, possible look over. I've given it all the thoughts that I could give or, tweaked it in whatever way. So I'm absolutely proud of it. My hopes for it is that it would be understood as the kind of document that it is. I think there's a lot of people out there, they have a career, they have a performance career, they do this or that. I am an artist. This is my vocation. This is art. This needs to be looked at in this way, not just, chart sales, toppers, things like that. It's a body of work. It's comprehensive. There's visual components to it. There's a lot of thought, love, and labor put into it. So my hope for this album is that people understand that and don't, digest it into something that could be considered trivial. Because I think the importance of it for me is showing that, one, women do this. It's not necessarily about a woman or not. It's just about my artistic vision. It's, Candice Ivory, New Southern Vision, the vintage, the lifestyle that I'm choosing to lead and who I'm choosing to be. I think that we can, stop placing the emphasis on so much of these things that don't matter. But I think that it's important to note that if you are a woman in any genre, business, or whatever, there are some challenges that are presented to you. You could choose to let them be limitations, or you could choose to go ahead and just keep rolling with the punches.
And what about the future?
The future for me? More of the same. Well, what I'm hoping to do, I really want to focus after doing this painting and visual art and photography, things like that. That's kind of how I decompress. So for me, what I'm hoping to get into is back into my art studio so that I can get ready to, exhibit in the beginning of the year. So hoping to unveil a whole new line of paintings, and also just looking at different things, because a lot of people have asked me about merch. That's something I've never really gotten into. Most of my stuff's been like, one of a kind, or it's just handmade things like that. So thinking about people actually wanting that, and that's been pretty amazing. And I'm really honored that people want to have things like t-shirts or, they want to have their own canvas print.
Sounds good. And have you got anything to say to the Blues Matters public?
The Blues Matters public, let me just say, I love y'all. Y'all have supported me. I really appreciate the warm reception I've gotten from you. I think people recognize that Blues Matters, and I just appreciate you for recognizing that I matter and you making me feel like I matter. So I just want to thank the Blues Matters public, and I also want to give them a shout out on behalf of Nola Blue Records, who I know they love as well.
Fantastic. Great.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. Next time we meet in person.
Hope so. And I missed you coming out,
I know.
This was a nut summer, I'll say, between the weather, the types of shows. It's been crazy. It's been all over the place. I'm actually looking forward to just just a regular fall. Just a easy, just the regular schmegular fall. Like, hey, I'm looking forward to just cooking a meal at home. Just the basic things that people take for granted. I'm looking forward to going to the gas station and just in my own neighborhood.
Okay, then. I shall see you again.
Thank you so much. Let me know if you need anything else or if you got any follow-up questions. I'm here for you.
No problem.
All right,
Okay.
have a good one.
Bye.